If you've watched an adventure movie or played a treasure hunting video game in the last 40 years, you know the image. A shimmering metropolis made entirely of gold, hidden deep within an impenetrable jungle, waiting for a clever explorer to crack the code and find it. But long before it was a Hollywood set piece, this exact image was a deadly obsession for 16th century Spanish and Portuguese conquistadors. They spent centuries tearing apart the brutal terrain of the Amazon rainforest and the freezing peaks of the Andes Mountains looking for it. They were guaranteed to fail from the start because of a massive misunderstanding. The term they were chasing, El Dorado, is Spanish for the Golden One. It originally referred to a specific person, not a place. Entire armies of men perished scouring the South American continent for a mythical metropolis, entirely missing the fact that the original legend was simply a story about a man performing a local religious rite. The actual events behind the myth took place in the territory of the Muisca people, high up in the Andes of present-day Colombia. Specifically, they centered around this volcanic crater known as Lake Guatavita. During sacred rituals, a newly appointed Muisca tribal chief would coat his body in sap, covering himself from head to toe in fine gold dust. He would then board a raft, float to the center of the lake, and dive in, washing the gold away as an offering. We know this happened because archaeologists have recovered artifacts perfectly depicting this exact ceremony. This intricate gold raft, complete with the towering figure of the Golden One standing in the center, confirms the earliest colonial reports. The chief did not act alone. Countless other golden offerings, like these ornate frog pendants, have been dredged from the muddy bottom of Lake Guatavita, demonstrating the immense material wealth the Muisca dedicated to these waters. This was a highly localized, deeply religious practice, yet the raw amount of literal gold involved triggered a continent-wide scramble among European invaders. The Spanish had recently conquered the wealthy Aztec and Inca empires. Their holds were full of plundered gold, priming the explorers to blindly believe almost any rumor of vast wealth hidden over the next mountain range. The rumor mutated from a factual golden chief to a fabricated golden city, and eventually an entire golden empire. As expeditions failed, desperate explorers pushed the location deeper, expanding their search grid outward into the most remote corners of the Amazon and the Andes. El Dorado had ceased to be a physical place anchored in reality. It had mutated into a psychological virus, sustained entirely by human greed and the refusal to admit defeat. The physical cost of this delusion was staggering. In 1537, Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada led an early, brutal expedition deep into Colombia, specifically chasing those initial, raw rumors of gold-rich native rituals. By 1541, Francisco de Orellana launched a massive jungle expedition that marked a terrifying shift in the timeline. Explorers were no longer investigating local reports, they were blindly searching the unknown. There is a dark irony to Orellana's journey. While hunting a ghost city that didn't exist, his expedition accidentally completed the very real first European navigation of the massive Amazon River. Decades later, the obsession dragged in the English. Sir Walter Raleigh launched 2 massive failed expeditions, convinced he would find a glowing golden city on the shores of a mythical Lake Parime in modern-day Venezuela. Raleigh's complete failure to find anything but disease and hostile terrain ruined his reputation. He returned home in disgrace and was eventually executed, illustrating how the brutal myth systematically destroyed the lives of even the era's most elite, well-funded explorers. The central paradox of El Dorado is simple. Despite centuries of manpower and vast fortunes spent, no European explorer ever found the lost city of gold, because it never existed. Yet the frenzied pursuit of this phantom had massive, unintentional consequences. Chasing a myth forced mapmakers to permanently fill in the blank spaces across the interior of the Americas, charting coastlines, mountain ranges, and inland river networks. That cartographic progress came at an appalling cost. As expedition after expedition cut through the jungle, they brought disease, violence, and forced labor, leaving a trail of shattered indigenous civilizations and devastated ecosystems in their wake. Today, El Dorado has shed its literal coordinates on the map. It survives in our culture as a universal metaphor for an unattainable dream, a reminder of the extreme lengths people will go to when promised infinite wealth. The Golden City was always an illusion, but the maps it forced us to draw and the blood spilled to achieve them were tragically real.